Under the approved minutes. I think there was a glitch because you have 2 for June 10th and none for April 15th, so we'd have to take that off.
In terms of the attachments.
Yeah,
So April 15th is missing.
yeah,
Okay.
that's the only thing I have.
Anything else? All right, agenda's approved.
As amended. Or whatever.
As amended. And give me 1 second here for the next item. The land acknowledgement didn't get into the agenda, did it?
Does not look like it.
Okay, so since we didn't get the land and labor and body acknowledgement into the agenda, I'll just use this opportunity as item E, comments for the chairperson, to include that, and then a few more comments that I have.
Oh, Melissa just added it to the chat.
Oh,
Okay.
cool. I got it in front of me as well.
Okay.
We recognize that we are presently on the lands of the Chichonyo, Muwekma, Karkin, Ohlone peoples, and acknowledge them as first inhabitants of the land we currently occupy. Labor and body recognition. I acknowledge that the burden of environmental exploitation and systematic injustice falls upon the labor of Black and brown bodies in the building of this country and its institutions. I remember that Black and brown people were born and died working this land against their will for generations. I acknowledge the continued contribution of the labor of survivors over the centuries to today, of all immigrant labor, including voluntary, involuntary, trafficked, forced, and undocumented peoples in the building of what we refer to as the United States. Author, Dr. Rochelle Rogers Ard. I think actually I'll save other comments for some of the agenda items we have. We have a rich agenda here, so happy to just move on.
Yeah, I have
Lorraine?
a comment on this agenda item.
Sure.
I don't think we should have it on our agenda. This is a statement by the district. And the district put it on our agenda. We put things on our agenda. This is an independent committee. And secondly, the whole purpose of our committee, we are an outside committee formed of the public, for the public. We have nothing to do with this building. It's provided by the district for public meetings. And I don't think it's necessary to have that on our agenda. So I object to it. I'd like us to vote on it rather than just have you state it every month.
Thank you for the comment.
Sure.
I know we did also take the Pledge of Allegiance off the agenda. So I think we could bring this item and the Pledge of Allegiance back to the committee for discussion. Don?
When this first started showing up, I got a hold of the school board and Dr. Hurst, and Dr. Hurst replied, says, it is a requirement that all district committees state this. This is the policy of our school district now. We don't have a choice in it.
We are not a district committee.
We're appointed
We
by
are
the
an
district.
outside committee.
Well, we're appointed by the Board of Education though.
Well, that doesn't mean that they tell us what to do.
Well, anyway, I'm
Yeah,
just repeating,
I mean-
repeating what Dr. Hurst said, because I have my own opinions about these too.
And what's your opinion?
Well, not on the
let's,
record.
let's agendize that. I'm happy to agendize that. I mean, just
Yeah.
for the record, I believe in this statement, and so as the chair, I read it during my comment section. I'm not being coerced to read this at all by any means. So,
But it is our agenda. It's the committee's agenda, not your agenda.
right.
So we should
Yeah, I'm
have
just-
a
yeah.
discussion, I agree.
So, yeah, so I read it in the comments by the chairperson. It's not on our agenda, and we can bring it back to, for discussion with the Pledge of Allegiance conversation. Maybe at the next at the next meeting. If you wouldn't mind submitting that item for
Sure.
future agenda item, we can track that.
Or we could wait till we do the bylaws and that's what it's doesn't matter to me, just so we discuss it.
Okay, item F.
Hey, before you get too much farther, on the agenda itself, I've just got a question. We got 3 addresses listed at the bottom of page 1.
Yes.
That
Those
suggests,
are,
that, I know what they are, but it suggests that those people are gonna be participating remotely.
well,
Because otherwise,
way
we
that
could
I've
all put our addresses on
approached it.
there all the time.
yeah, and I think there's a couple of things here. One is, if we all have the addresses that would allow us to do remote voting, then, all the time, then we're never in jeopardy of not having a vote when we need it. Secondly, if we were just to provide the addresses of people that were remote, then that would also, indicate where those individuals are at the time. So, this is one additional step to kind of remain semi-anonymous, but also just to be sure that like we have those locations on the agenda. It's a preference that I have.
So if the person was there, I would have no problem with it. But you're not there, you're here,
Mhm.
but the agenda says you're there. You see a problem there?
And if the
And you-
address is here, people can go to that place to attend the meeting. So,
That's the purpose of putting it there.
but you are not there. right?
Correct.
And you're not there. Isn't one of those addresses yours too? Ariel,
No,
that's
We
not
can-
your address?
We can, I
Okay,
mean,
my apologies.
yeah, that's a good point. So we can look at that.
It might be something that they have to notify you ahead of time before you send in the agenda. And then you-
Yeah, we've just had challenges in getting that notification. So
Mhm.
that's one of the practices, but I can see how could be confusing to the public that would potentially show up at one of these addresses. Okay, so item F, public comment on non-agendized items. Is there any members of the public that would like to speak on this item?
I do not see any hands at this time. There was a comment in the chat earlier saying good evening from President Smith.
Great. And is there anybody else online?
There are
There are, okay.
yes,
How many people are online roughly?
4.
Four, okay. So that's President Smith Folds, Lynn Johnson, Melissa Payne?
I did not
Not
count, I did not count Melissa. She's part of the panelists.
Oh, okay, so then 2 others.
Yeah,
Okay.
technically, we're not supposed to reveal unless they choose to acknowledge themselves. We're not supposed to reveal who's online.
Okay.
Because it's a public's prerogative to anonymously attend any public meeting. So unless they give permission that they are to be announced, we should not be the ones to announce them here.
Okay. Item G, public comment.
We
on-
did have a second public comment, Tashiana Johnson attending via Zoom.
Okay, great. Welcome, Tashiana. Public comments, on agendized items. Is there any public comment?
I've seen none.
Okay, item H, bond program progress and status report.
All right. Oh, normally I'm right here. Sorry.
Yeah,
Good
you
evening,
start on
everyone.
page, Slide 24.
Yep. My name's Ellen Mejia Hooper. I'm here once again to talk about what our project status is for our board or for our bond projects. So overall, we have our summary table, and in planning, we have the stage modernization, which we are currently in a procurement process to hire a design build entity. For design, we have Kennedy and Richmond modernization. Those have moved into design development. Kennedy High School Critical Needs Project is broken into several different sub-projects. And we are in closeout for the relocation of the boiler room. We just bid and awarded the admin relocation, the kickoff for construction. Pre-con meeting is scheduled for next week. And so that's getting started now. And I've got a quick summary slide to talk about what the scope is for that project. And then we're also in closeout for the temporary housing component of this project. And then I need to add to this the 100 and 200 demolition and building hit pad preparation is in DSA or is completed. The design is completed and we need to we're ready to bid that project as we get closer in the timeline for when that's appropriate. For construction, we have our lake project that we are in our phase 2 of our increment 2, which is the NPR and kindergarten complex, as well as the playground. Hercules, we're under construction, getting closer and closer to the end date. Pinole Valley Fields is still with the State Geologic Society. And Shannon Critical Needs Project for the new NPR are under construction as well. Yes.
Ellen?
Mhm.
Just to clarify for me and the new members,
Mhm.
the planning for Stage, Kennedy, and Richmond are the only projects under bond measure R. Is that correct?
Stage currently does not have any measure R dollars associated with it.
So is that, I mean, they were budgeted money for it, correct?
They did budget money for it, so it has some of the critical needs money. Well, it has all of the critical needs money that was originally designated out of D&E. So that's some of the money associated with it. And the other component of it was out of the fund where we have reimbursement from the state for projects that we've submitted to the state for either modernization, new construction, CTE grants. That's the half of the money that we receive in those grants. They come back into an account because often we're paid for those grants way after the completion of the project. So we've already spent the money, the bond money towards it. So we have used that state reimbursement before to augment our overall bond funding. And so that's where the 40 million for Stage was added.
Well, I don't understand. So
From-
you're saying that with the 40 million that were budgeted for the project, for the under R, you're saying that has not been used?
It is not from R.
Okay.
So there's
this is
no
all,
measure R dollars associated with
2016
Stage.
money, 2016?
Yes,
Okay,
this
good.
2016 money is the critical needs money
Yeah.
that was originally allocated. I can't remember the exact amount, but
Mhm.
that was augmented by the board last year. And when they augmented that funding, we used the state reimbursement account
Okay.
and not Measure R.
Good. And then the rest of the schools listed here, Lake, et cetera, that's all out of D&E, correct? And the Kennedy Boiler Project, is that out of D&E?
That is out of D&E because the critical needs project was the original 2016
Yeah.
master plan project.
Okay, good, very good. And the second question I have is under construction,
Yes,
the Pinole Valley High School, the California Geotechnical Review,
yes.
how long do they take? That's been on there for months.
It has been on there for months. We have been going back and forth, providing additional information and research, and modeling as requested by the Geologic Society. So it has been on there for some time. There was a time period that we had a bit of a lapse because we turned things in to their state platform, but it got lost in the process of doing the electronic submission. So there was some confusion for a while because we thought they were looking at one thing and they were actually looking at another. So that did not help the situation. But we have resolved that portion of it at least. We have one more round of documentation that we are planning on sending. We're just waiting for confirmation that we have all the parts and pieces that they're looking for. And we're hoping this is the last round.
Good.
But we have no control over whether they are satisfied with our response. So we continue to work towards their
So do you have to accept the review or whatever they have the final say whether you can do something?
Yes, they are an approval agency. So until we get their approval, we're not allowed to get DSA approval, Division of State Architects. So they are in the process that we need to be able to get through the Division of State Architects.
Okay, thank you.
All right, moving on, Lake Elementary School. We had a great tour the other day on Friday. I have no tour pictures because it happened late in the afternoon and we already had the agenda put together, but it was nice to have folks out there to be able to see it in real life. But for those that weren't able to attend, we're in a very interesting time on the project because at this moment in time, we have the foundation components in 3 separate phases. So what we're doing at Lake is we are building 3 separate buildings. One of them is D, and that's in the far end of this picture, and that is the new multipurpose cafeteria building. This middle building is the kindergarten wing, that is E, and this corner that you see, just a portion of it, that's building F. And so throughout the project last time, we talked about how in the sequence, building A was first, then building B, and then building C. And the contractor worked through those and they would move crews from one building to another. Well, they're doing the same thing this time, but this time it's going F-E-D. So we're going backwards in the alphabet. But this shows 3 different stages of the foundation work. So in the building up at the front, you can see the yellow vapor barrier down with the rebar on top of it, and the slab will be poured on top of this after they add, after they'll be poured directly over this. Then in this picture, or in this middle building, we have just the conduits on the subgrade. There will be another layer of rock that comes in, and then the vapor barrier and the rebar, and then the concrete. So this is one step before this. And down here, while you can't see it in this particular image, the footings are dug and the rebar is in the footings. However, the concrete hasn't been poured. Where you can see these gray lines here are the poured footing lines with concrete. So it's kind of a fun process when contractors work this way, because you're able to see the progression of construction just by the nature of having 3 buildings at 3 different points of time in the process. So that's kind of fun. The previous picture down here, you can see we're just at putting in the underground utilities and making grade previously. So now we've got quite a few things in the ground, and we're moving forward. The schedule's looking good. At the moment, we're, rainy season is coming, so we're trying to get as much in before that rain falls. Right here, these blue pipes are our fire water system. So this is the site, fire water system that will feed all these buildings as well. Phase one is already in place. But this is the main lines that will go in and feed the phase two buildings.
Sorry, Ellen,
Yes.
the blue pipes.
Yeah.
Are those, glued together, welded together? I know they're plastic, but how are they connected to pieces?
They are, I know that they are connected, that it's not just a friction fit, but I do not know the methodology of how it is, attached. I'd have to get back to you on
I'm
it.
just curious. I mean, I've installed a gazillion miles of plastic pipes, but they're much heavier. I mean, we had 20-inch pipe with 2.5-inch wall thickness. And of course, I say welded, you put a hot plate in there and melt them and pull the hot plate out and slam it together. But I don't think they do that with this thin wall stuff here.
I don't know on the fire water lines, they do a special connection, but I don't know what it is top of my head, so I would have to get back
Unlike
to you.
a drain pipe, this is pressurized,
This is very pressurized.
150 pounds maybe. Thank you.
So yes, this is the fire water feeds the fire sprinkler heads inside the building once it gets in there, but this is just the ground system. It will be a while before we get to the building system. So at Hercules Middle High School Critical Needs Project, we are building 4 labs for the middle school and 4 labs for the high school. And this is quite a ways along in construction. So last month, we didn't have any of the casework in. Now the casework is fitting under the soffit. The sliding whiteboards that are gonna go in front of this are still to be installed. And the countertop here is not actually attached just yet. But we are in progress and we've gotten all the casework installed and the countertop at least loose fit throughout the building. We are also working on the exterior flat work. So that's the concrete areas that you see around the building. And so the sidewalk adjacent to the building was poured. The quad space, this is where the sundial will be, the rebar is in there, but we haven't got the concrete in there yet. Framing is also up. And the outdoor learning areas, we have our patio covers on. At this point in time, we also have the lath underneath these to be able to attach the plaster, but they have been framed. And so that's true here as well as over in the middle school side. Each side has an outdoor learning area that's covered.
Is that hole gonna be the skylight or open?
Yes, it's designed to be open. So the idea of this is that there could be solar tracking done with an Oculus in the outdoor. It also adds additional natural light to the outdoor areas. Sometimes when you get these covered patios, they get pretty dark if you don't add some form of light into them. But it's also a fun way that students could go out there throughout the day and trace where the circle is, and you could watch the movement of the sun. Right. So there'll be planets underneath this in the concrete portion of it. So the multipurpose room at Shannon Elementary School, we're building a new multipurpose room cafeteria space with a attached kitchen. It also has a stage and some restroom facilities. We are early in this process. So here you will see that we have the concrete slab poured and we've started the interior wall curbs. So those are going in. Oh, I thought I had one more picture. In the newsletter, you'll see that we've also, poured the stage, which is back in this portion of it, and you can see here, that it's in framing. So that has been poured by now. The hard part about having the meeting at the end of the month is basically everything we were gonna do in October, we've already done. So it's a little bit of an awkward time. But the stage has also been completed at this point. And then for the Kennedy Critical Needs Project, as I was saying, we're about to kick off the admin relocation project. And so I just wanted to kind of remind folks of what that project consists of. And so here you'll see we have a site plan of Kennedy High. Cutting Boulevard is along the top. All these little buildings down here is off of Burke, and these are the portable buildings where most of the classrooms have been relocated to. This big building here is the gym. So as you're looking at the overall site, this building is the 300 building where the library is currently located. And the little yellow orange square here is where our new MDF room is. And I wrote out MDF, didn't I? Main distribution frame, because I knew that I needed to remember all of those words. So the main distribution frame, or MDF, is located here, and it's a converted boiler room. And that was our previous project, was clearing out the old boiler, making it inhabitable for electronics. And so now it's ready to rock and roll. So we are going to be putting in we're gonna relocate the fire alarm panel and put in a new bell clock intercom system, and relocate our switches and IDF, our switches to be able to connect to all of the IDFs across the campus. So you'll see these swoopy lines. These are the different conduit and connection places that we need to make to all of the buildings. So in each building, they have an individual IDF, which is the intermediate distribution frame. And so that room runs that whole building. So what we need to do is we need to reconnect our main to all of our intermediate locations that are in each one of the buildings to make sure all of our low voltage systems continue to operate once we take the 100 and 200 building down. So that is what this project is all about. So what we're going to be doing is we're going to be running conduit to all of the other buildings on the campus to be able to handle our bell clock intercom, our fire alarm, our intrusion, and our general data, which is what you get your Wi-Fi and all that good stuff from, as well as the phone system, because we have power over Ethernet for our phone system. So all of those systems need to be relocated and connected into this main point of connection, and then go out to all of the sub panels that are around in each one of the other buildings. And because this is a DSA project, we have a few path of travel improvements also associated with it. But we also need to bring our main lines into this MDF, because we get our utilities from the utility company typically off of our main streets. So what we're going to need to also do is there's going to be a significant amount of trenching along the inside of the drop-off area to be able to get a new line out and around and through to this new MDF, but we can't go under the footprint of our new building. So it's a bit of a ways around, and it looks kind of silly right now, but the reason it looks silly right now is because we haven't built the new building yet. But once we put up the new building, everybody will realize why we went out and around and through the quad, and that's to avoid being under the footprint of the new building. So.
Before you.
Yeah.
A couple of questions here. Keep in mind, we can't see the details of this, even on the printed one, we can only enlarge it so much, so we have to ask these questions. I'm looking at the quad right now where it looks like you've got two loop-de-loop sets of conduit. We're gonna tear up the quad?
No, we are not going to tear up the quad. So these are diagrammatic, but there is covered pathway across the, covered walkways. So, there's conduit along the pathways that allow us to get from one end to the other. Except for this, at the gym, we have some underground conduit that's already in place that we're gonna reutilize.
All right, second question, on the far right where you see the big USA,
Mhm.
what's the purpose of that box and what does it say below USA? In the box? I mean, is this just to confirm that we're still we haven't been taken over by foreign government or?
No, that is a identification to remind people that they need to call USA, which is the underground locating service.
Okay. And the very smaller box directly above that. Any idea what it says? Yeah.
Just a second. AT&C service from somewhere. There's an AT&C server.
I got a magnifying glass in my pocket. I forgot about that. Blind guy here.
AT&T service to remain protected. This looks like what it says. Location and protect. AT&T service to remain, something along those
From
lines.
208 to, doesn't matter,
So
AT&T. Thank you.
it's a note to, about protecting the AT&T line.
Okay.
All right, any other questions?
Good.
Nope, all right. So again, we have our project status reports and newsletters. And then that completes my report.
Any other questions or comments?
Let me double check the, chat here. Just to make sure we didn't get anyone. We did have a question about fire sprinkler heads, which I talked about while I was presenting. Otherwise, I do not see any hands. So we're good.
Okay, moving to item I, bond program staffing update. Melissa, are you on and ready to provide any update on staffing?
I am. I'm here. I apologize for not being in person tonight. I did want to follow up on Ms. Hume's question, and it's a perfect place where the agenda has been left. So can I jump back and then I'll jump forward to answer your question? So what you see here on page 45 of the packet, this is the Measure R snapshot. And so one of the questions earlier was about the Measure R budget and the projects that it's supporting. And so we have carved out our consolidated budget report so that we could get different types of snapshots of the overall information. And so this particular report identifies the 3 projects that are funded with Measure R. And so we see here that at Kennedy High School, there was the Fields project now completed. That was done with Measure R dollars. And then we have the Kennedy High School and the Richmond High School modernization. Can you go to the next report, and I'll just do a quick financial. This is another subset of data that we provide, and this is the consolidated budget status report for what we call our 2016 facilities master plan. So back in 2016, when the facilities master plan was adopted, it had set forth scope and budgets for particular projects, and the funding source for these projects is measured D&E. And then as written in the adopted board-approved master plan, it identified that where there were gaps in the budget to cover the dollars necessary to complete the scope, and as those were board approved, so see, for example, on our first project there, Cameron, the initial budget was 1.3 million. The board approved a project budget change of 2.2 million, so that the total budget was 3.5 million. This particular project budget increased to cover the cost of the electrical service in order to implement the scope of the project, which was a major component of which was the installation of the AC and the ventilation there. So that delta, that 2.2, those additional budget dollars, a lot of those come from our state facilities dollars that we've so successfully received from the state. And so keep going. I promise I'm getting to a point. So this is a carve out of our 2016 data. You can do a page jump for me so we can get there just a little bit faster. I thought if we jumped forward. So then this report, this is everything. So this is our bond program back to 1998 through footnotes. This has all of our legacy projects. This has our 2016 facilities master plan, and it's got Measure R. So this one's got it all. And then jumping forward to our next type of financial report.
Okay.
So this is our report 2, which identifies for us each school in a single line item, and then keep going. I wanted to get to the AP checklist so we could look at those resources and those indications. Here we go. Perfect.
And Melissa, we have a hand when we get a chance.
You have what? I'm sorry?
A hand.
Okay, terrific. So I promise I'll put a little period at the end of the statement, and then I'm happy to answer more questions. When we look at our AP checklist, part of what our short account identifies for us is it tells us Fund 21, so we know that this is a bond-funded expenditure. But the next 4 digits are really important because the next 4 digits tell us if it's Measure D, 2010, if it's Measure E, 2012, if it's Measure R, 2020, or if it's actually the use of those state funds. And so as we look down this list here, we see that all of these are 9745 and 9748. So all of these expenditures come from Measure D and E. We've had AP checklists in the past, and I'm sure we'll have one at our next meeting where we'll see other resources listed there. And that's how you'll know as a community member for every single dollar we spend, which bond measure that dollar is coming from. And so I just wanted to share that. I thought that was a great question earlier, and I had made a note that I wanted to circle back to try to answer it. Go ahead, you said there's a hand.
Thank you. Don Gosney here, Melissa. You know how much I love report number 2, so maybe we can go back to page 1 of report number 2.
All
Down
right.
near the bottom of the
Right.
high schools. We're scrolling down, hang on.
You want the top of it, right?
No, I want the
Bottom?
bottom of page, or essentially page 51. That's it,
This one?
the first page of page 2. Page
Oh,
report
50.
2. Where it shows the high schools. Okay, my question is, I thought that the board had authorized $280 million each for Kennedy High School and Richmond High School. But I'm not seeing any reference to that on this report number 2. And second, with that $280 million each for those, the give or take $90 million that has already been budgeted, does that come out of the 280, or is that 280 plus 90 million for each of these schools?
So I'm not sure about the 90 million, but I do want us to just walk across the columns. So our first column that we see there has a 3-digit number, and that 3-digit number is part of our account code, and that identifies the site. So perfect. We'll use Richmond High as our example. And so then we see the name of the site, Richmond High. The first column is a column that identifies original budgets, and this is essentially from a moment in time that actually predates my time working on the bond program. But it's been a very specific request that that be kept. The next column you see there, 322,722,087. So that number includes the $280,100 Measure R budget. So that number represents the full budget of any project at Richmond High School over the life of the bond program. As some of you may recall, at Richmond High School, Richmond had a critical needs project, which included the seismic retrofit and some modernization of one of the classroom buildings, as well as the auxiliary gym at Richmond High. And so there have been other bond-funded projects at Richmond High School, and so that 322 number includes the 280. And if you look 2 cells above, you see the 332 number for Kennedy. That includes the 280 million for the current modernization of Measure R, but it also includes previous projects that were bond funded and took place at Kennedy. So as we continue to walk across the columns and we move forward, these start to dial in some of the details associated with commitments, dollars spent in previous fiscal years. And then our headers are cut off here, so you can't see them. But yeah, go ahead and scroll up to the top. So we have our overall board approved budget. That was our second column. The next 3 columns are all about expenditures. And so when we're reporting on expenditures, we're identifying the dollars that have already been spent. You can see that goes back to fiscal year 99 through last fiscal year, which is now closed. The next column is identifying dollars spent in this fiscal year, which our fiscal years run July through June. So these are the dollars that we've spent on these projects since July. And then that third column is the total expenditures on the site. So those are dollars that have been spent. The next column is commitment, committed balance. And so if we've made a commitment, that exists in the form of a contract or a PO. And the last column identifies our budget balance. So now if you could scroll down back to our high schools so we can take a look. So let's go back to our Richmond line. So we see that of the 322 million that our board has approved overall in the life of our 25-year program, that $43 million have been spent. As we continue to walk along, we see we haven't spent dollars yet this year, but we look in the next column after the green one, and we see that we have 12.7 in commitments, and we have a remaining budget balance of 2 million or 266 million. So the goal of this report was really to create a single snapshot by site. And so this report can be really hard to read because it's representing such a long period of time. And that's where that consolidated budget report provides us much greater detail so we can see how these big numbers break out into their smaller sizes. So was that able to help answer your question?
It helped answer some of the questions, but I think it opened up even more of them for me. I'm trying to look at the numbers that are being presented here on just report number 2. I have not had a chance to go back to the consolidated reports, but the numbers just don't quite add up. I mean, if we think $280 million kind of is a base number that has been recently been approved, and you take a look at the money that has been spent for both these schools, the issues are the same for both of them, just the numbers change, but they just don't quite add up. You take the 280 million and then you take the $43.4 million at Richmond High. It doesn't add up to 322,000. These numbers are very exact down to the dollar. which I find kind of strange when you're talking about numbers that big. And I'm not gonna belabor this anymore at this meeting, but I'll take a look at the consolidated reports to see if I can make better sense of it and try to reach out to you, and hopefully I can get a better feel, because,
Thank
Go
you
ahead.
so much for the questions, because I think that, every time we hear a question, we learn. And so one of the things that I would love to do at our next CBOC meeting is bring a specific presentation for Kennedy and Richmond that breaks out these large dollars into their smaller components to help demystify the report in a way and create some of those connections. And so if that's something that the committee would like on the next agenda, I'd be happy to bring that forward in a presentation where we could focus on the Kennedy and Richmond sites, and then I can use the financial data across the different financial reports to tell the complete story.
just, in the past month or so, there's been numerous, class reunions for Kennedy High. I'm sure Richmond High has had them as well, but since I'm in tune with Kennedy, being an alum there, go Eagles. They're reaching out to me to get answers, and I can't give them answers about what's happening at Kennedy High School and Richmond High School. I keep referring them to things like report number 2, but I'm not quite sure I'm gonna refer them to this, because they might be looking at it the same way I am right now, and I like to think I'm halfway smart, but I'm having trouble understanding some of this information. Because in particular, they wanna know, since a lot of the residents here that live in Richmond are gonna be paying for these 2 schools for the rest of their lives, they wanna know, where's that money gonna go? And what, especially because that's a tremendous amount of money, considering that up until recently, Pinole Valley High School was the most expensive school in the history of California, 217 million, until Emerald High in Dublin came out at, what, 380 something million? But we're getting up there close to that right now with these 2 schools, and for considering it's not really a total rebuild. People are questioning, they want to know, they want answers to where's that money going? And I want to be able to try to provide that for them. Thank you, though.
Thank you. Are there other questions?
Yeah.
Lorraine?
Yeah, I have 2. On the AP checklist, one time we used to have a key at the bottom saying what the codes for the bond programs were. Is there any way we could add that? For instance, the 2745 is bond D, so that someone looking at this would be able to figure out what school or what bond program it was from.
Absolutely. So one of the staff members that's with you there in person tonight is Miss Megan Falk. She is our business services fiscal coordinator. And so she prepares these reports. And so I will share with her how we've just kind of added that little text box in the past that's identified the second 4-digit number and which numbers belong to which resources, and make sure that that's included in the future reports. No problem.
Great. And maybe
Actually
they
made
could
it
say
up.
like 21 is for the bond program. Just explain the first part, because you say the school on the description part, so that's no problem.
Well, and just for fun, I'll tell you, because we just walked through it. If you look at your short account, the last 3 numbers are your site.
Yeah, but you
So
don't have to put a
absolutely,
key
we'll add a key.
Well, the site key isn't necessary if you have it in the description. Like you've got Lake Elementary School Kennedy in the description, that isn't necessary unless there's no school involved.
Well, let's take a look at the very last one, Timothy Haley, FOC Design Management. We don't have any idea where that,
What 615 is,
yeah. Yeah, but that's a good example.
yeah.
And that's, yeah, so absolutely, we'll provide a key, and if there is space in next month's agenda, we're happy to provide much more context on kind of decoding some of the reports.
Great.
Be happy to partner together to share that.
The second question I have is, on the first page of your budget, your consolidated, you have, Highland Heights Elementary School. We still have water and power upgrade that has not had anything done with it. That's been on there for years. What do they have to do, and what is the status of the school at the present time? Do they have power and water? It's for an upgrade, but what is the status of this is a critical needs project. What is the status of the situation now? And in the past, Lewis has said, well, that's PGE has to deal with that. Now, maybe we can put pressure on PG&E if we need the upgrade.
So for Highland in particular, and again, I'm happy to bring a more in-depth presentation to the next meeting, just because I wasn't prepared for that this evening. But when we look at the 2016 Facilities Master Plan, we know that the Critical Needs Project had $800,000 associated with it. And the critical needs projects were related to some of the infrastructure needs at Highland, and that work was done quite some time ago. That's why we see there that we have expended that almost $53,000. And so that was some work that was done quite some time ago that really addressed that immediate critical need. In doing that critical needs work, which was the scope of the master plan, we learned a lot more about some of the water and power needs at Highland. And so that remaining $747,000 is the remaining dollars from the $800,000 budget that the board approved. And so ultimately, the board decides the project budget and the scope associated with it. And so the board would be able to make the determination, and we would need to ask them for their decision that the original scope of the critical needs was completed, and it was completed for $52,875. There remains $747,000 for Highland. Should those dollars go to additional water and power upgrades needed at that site that exceed the original scope of the master plan, or should those dollars be reallocated to another project? And ultimately, that's a board decision. That's not a decision that staff makes.
Right, but you'd have to ask them about that.
That's right, we do. We have to place that before them, and staff typically always provides a recommendation to the board. But ultimately it's the board's decision. So excellent question.
Right, okay, thank you.
Any other kind of financial report questions? And then I promise I'll go back to the first question that was asked, and I took us on a little bit of a winding road. I thank the committee for the time. I just think it's so important to provide additional details about these reports and about the expenditures, because that's a key component for the CBOC. But in regards to the first question, which was really about bond program staffing. So you guys have known me for quite some time. I serve as the Executive Director for Contracts Administration. I have stepped up into a role as the Acting Associate Superintendent of Operations at this time, as Louis Freeze is currently on a leave. So I am just in this acting role, but that's why you guys haven't seen Louis. So I have been in this acting role since August. So currently, as the Acting Associate Superintendent of Operations, I am your CBOC liaison as identified in the board policy, and working really closely with Sylvia. Miss Mejia Hooper there in person with you this evening. She is and continues to be our Director of Facilities Planning and Construction, and also in person with you this evening is Ms. Falk, who is the Business Services Coordinator who oversees the fiscal transactions. Some of you may remember from seasons past, Ms. Sinja Cha served in that role, and so we're really excited to have Ms. Falk in that role, and so that's why she's also there with you tonight in person. I am here with you in the building. I am just not with you over in that seated area, and thank you for your understanding tonight, but I am here with you. And so at this time, we are your bond program team. We do have administrative support. We do have project managers and others that are supporting us, but the three of us are a small but mighty team here to support the committee and any questions that you might have. So wasn't sure if you had any other questions, but hopefully that helps kind of address the question that we started with just a little bit ago.
Yeah, thank you, Melissa. And I think the nature of the question was just about around, acknowledging that Lewis is not, is on leave and not contributing to the team, and knowing that he had made a big contribution, how you're able to staff up and meet the need as it's presented to you on a day-to-day basis. That's kind of just the general question.
I have a question. I heard at the candidate forum the other day that Dr. Hurst is going to be retiring at the end of December. Is that going to affect personnel in your department at all?
So I'm happy to share that update from the board meeting. And so that is correct. Current Superintendent Dr. Hurst, his last day as superintendent, I believe, is December 18th, which is our second board meeting in December. Our current chief business official, Dr. Kim Moses, is approved as the interim superintendent. And so there is already a transition underway to ensure that our team is able to continue to support the critical needs of our district without interruption. And so we're excited to continue the work. And so I do not anticipate that creating any changes. We all work really closely together, and we all know how important the work is, and keep students at the center of our work. And so I think that's why we've seen the board support and move forward expeditiously on ensuring that we have an interim superintendent to continue the critical work ahead of us.
Are there questions or comments? Okay, thank you, Melissa. CBOC business, item J, I wanted to put this on to get an update, but also, Don, if you have any outstanding questions for the committee regarding the bylaw revision.
Well, so my discussions with the chair, we had kind of set a date of November for me to bring at least what I've got. Hopefully it'll be done, and we're working hard. We are. Used to be me and my cat, but cat left me a long time ago, so it's just by myself getting this thing done. But I provided old bylaws and other things that several months ago and asked, what do you want to be included in the bylaws? And I got 0 responses. And so, I'm not saying do it here, but reach out to me and tell me, what are your concerns? I mean, it doesn't have to be a specific item, but what are your concerns? And I can make sure that that's addressed in the bylaws. We have an opportunity to forge a pathway forward that will, hopefully for quite some time, that will help us to conduct our business without having to look over our shoulders. And but he said, reach out to me. If you don't have my contact information, I'll provide it to you tonight. I'll give you a card, but, I can't do anything just by reading your mind. I'm not, Johnny Carson did the Karnak thing. He's dead, so I can't do it. Yep, but
Would you send out did you send out the one of the old bylaws, the original, you said?
yes, I did.
Okay.
And along,
Maybe if you could resend that out again before next meetings and tell people to read that over.
Yeah.
For the meeting.
along with, I'd say recently, the past 8 or 10 years worth of resolutions that have been passed and other suggestions that we had for resolutions to amend our bylaws just a year or so ago. But yeah, I'll have no problem sending it back out.
And also I think it's important for the new people, especially to know what does the law say about it? In other words, our bylaws are ours, but we have to follow the law, the ed codes. That's the first one. Then we have the parliamentarian, but that we can change. You know, and just let people know things like this, and where does the policy for the board policy fall into that? In their board policy, they put the legal, then the board, then us. So, but I do not believe we have to follow that. It's more or less the law and us before the board.
Well, I think it goes without saying that we can't put something into our bylaws that conflicts with the board policy, right? They're not gonna allow it. And it'd be
Do they
following,
have to approve our bylaws?
sorry, I didn't hear you.
Does the district have to approve
No.
our bylaws?
No, they do not.
Well, who's not gonna allow it?
Well, see, if we put in something that conflicted with the board policy, you'd have all kinds of people between the board, the district's legal team, they would just come out to say, you can't do that. There's certain things you can't conflict with. And so, I mean, I'm familiar enough with the board policy to know where that line is drawn, so we don't cross that. And same thing with the ed code. We can't go in violation of that.
Right. Right.
But the rest of it, that's up to us to decide what we want to do. And no matter what I present in November, it will be a draft with suggestions. You know, which we will then be discussing and then amending as necessary. And I think if anybody thinks that we're gonna be putting a set of bylaws in front of the CBOC next November, and we're all just saying, it looks good to me, I vote yes, let's pass it. Not gonna really happen like that. That's what, there has to be an explanation for almost everything, at least, I mean, which means everybody has to read it in advance and come in there with their notes on there. Why are we doing this? And that's what I'm here for, is explain why we're doing certain things. It may be common sense once somebody explains it to you, but it may not be common sense without that explanation.
Right. Now, did you put the attachments concerning the bylaws in the agenda, or did Brendan?
I did, and
Oh,
these were
okay.
just, what was shared initially when we visited this item, I think in July. So these are previously proposed bylaws, kind of a summary. And then like the final document are just the sections I think we had.
Yeah, I'm sorry for interrupting, but please take a look at page 60 on here. I said, these are sections of the earlier bylaws from 2011, along with additional bylaw sections that I believe that we should be addressing. But this is where we would need assistance, guidance from each of the CBOC members. If there's something else that you see that was left out of there, then we do just add it. Also, when I present this, it will not be formatted at all. It's just information. It's once, because I'm not going to spend days and days and days formatting something and then say, well, we want, right in the middle, we want to change everything, so everything after that has to be reformatted again. We just
Right.
do formatting once. It's not as easy as people might think,
Mhm.
but you want it to look halfway decent too.
And when I looked at this, it looks like you're on page 60, the first section, from the 2011 bylaws. That's more or less just exactly from that. Then the others are the ones that you have added? Is
Yes.
it- Okay, then that's on the front page, the voting rights,
Well,
speaking rights.
it's
that's
not inclusive.
Yeah.
I mean, there's a lot more to it.
Mhm. Right. Is there any place where it tells you what should be in bylaws?
No,
No, okay.
yeah, I've been with a lot of different groups and organizations, and particularly my own union, which is a very large union. And I've been responsible for drafting the bylaws for close to half the century there, so I've got some experience in that. Plus, even the 2011, the initial bylaws I drafted. But things have changed quite a bit since 2011.
And
Okay, any other questions, clarifying questions, for Don? Thank you, Don, for your work on this, and we will be responsive online, over
Well, I hope so.
electronically.
Yeah. Unfortunately, it'd be great if I could send out the draft to everybody so you could review it. But that's a Brown Act violation. I have to send it out to the entire public at the same time. I don't have the entire public's email address. It's a slippery slope.
Or if it was in our agenda, it would,
Well, when the agenda comes out.
Yeah.
But that's 72 hours.
yeah, that's true.
That's not much time to be reviewing a 30, 40, 50 page document where every word, every comma makes a difference. I mean, you want more time than that. Personally, I mean, I think Brown Act is a great thing, but I always carry a toothbrush in my car in case they want to send me to Brown Act prison. I'm ready. Yeah. I mean,
Like
I'll
if
take
you
it right
put
up to
in
the line.
Agenda 1 month and you say, and you can go over, tell them what it's about, then you say, would you please send comments over the next month and follow through, then they have a whole month to read it.
Well, they can't send me the comments,
Why?
because that's a Brown Act violation.
The public descended,
No, I mean, the public can, but we can't because this is something that we are discussing on the agenda.
oh, right,
We have to do it in public.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Eric?
Oh, is it possible to just post the draft on website? So that everyone can download it to,
Yeah, I believe we can do
I
that.
mean, that can be done, okay, but, I guess I mean, reviewing is one thing. But commenting on it, is a different story.
we just save our comments to the next meeting.
Yeah. But I say you can, if you got ideas about what you want to see in there, you can just send me comments. I mean, if you're reviewing it and commenting on it, that's a slippery slope. But we
Yeah.
can put it on the website.
Yeah, I think it's a good suggestion if you feel like you can get it to a point where we post it on the website, draft, and have a few weeks at least to review before the November meeting, which is we got 4 weeks actually.
Yeah.
The
No,
the 18th,
18th.
so 3
3 weeks.
and a half,
Actually, less than that because you gotta have the agenda packet out earlier.
yeah, 3 weeks. If you can get something together. you can do that.
One thing I am concerned that if I try to post a partial set, it can open up problems for us and then you think, well, you left this out. Well, I didn't leave it out. You haven't got it yet. You haven't got chapter 2, 3, and 4. All you got is chapter 1 yet. It's just,
Yeah.
There has to be context to it.
Right, focusing on what's on the page.
And in particular, there will be a lot of questions, but why is this in here? You know, why is this worded like that? And that it really requires us to be in the same room together, sitting at the table, where you can ask the question and get an immediate response. Problem with emails, you know, you ask the question and it might take 2 or 3 days before somebody even checks their emails.
Okay, thanks, Don. So we'll move on to item K. Annual reports. So I put, so my name and Lorraine, your name here, just to be able to have a conversation about the two outstanding reports. My understanding is we only have two outstanding, but
Well,
there may be
it's
more.
for 3 years, but it's just, what we're doing is we're combining the 21 and 22.
Okay.
So
right,
it's 21
that's
and 22 transitional. And I can explain that, I have a slide. And then 23 was the one that we just got this
Right.
year.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Do you want to speak on the,
Sure.
21, 22?
Sure. I have a couple slides. The one that says annual financial audit. It's not in the book, it's just on my report, so you have to look on the screen. And, okay, good. The top half of this is just a copy of what we would get on the financial report for the audit of 2022. I just wanted to show you that. And see, they say the measures, they say it's the financial report, and notice it says for the year ended June 30th, 2022. Now, the important thing to know is that the fiscal year of the school is from July 1st of one year to June 30th of the next year. Then the audit has to be they look at it, they get all the information, they write the report, and according to the Ed Code, it is not due till the 31st of March of the year after the material was collected. So they have 9 months to write the report, in other words. So we name our annual reports by the date of the audit. So the annual report for 2022 would have been approved and published in 2023. Because you've got 9 months, you've got that mark till March, and then you see it, and then, so that's what we normally have done. Now, with the CBOC, traditionally, we have run our annual reports on a yearly basis. So we would have done it from, for instance, our report would have dealt with data that was collected in 2021 to 2022, but the report name follows the audit date. So it's annual report 22. Okay, so that's important to know. Then you can put the next slide up, or yeah, this down in this notes section. It says the dates of the data that was reviewed in this report was from July 1st, 21 through June 30th, 22, the fiscal year for the district. The cover letter that was sent with this report when they sent the audit report to us was dated April 24th, 23. So you see that the date is beyond, it's a year later than when the data was finally covered. And so therefore, the audit report will be in the annual report for 22. Okay, now, traditionally, like I said, the next slide. It was a yearly reporting for the annual report. But in 2021, December of 2021, we passed a resolution 2103. And that was to align the annual report with the fiscal year of the district. So instead of coming out yearly, we would do it according to the fiscal year. Because they would have to get different reports for us and all just to make up that period difference. So in order to do that, you've got to have a transition from the yearly report to the fiscal year. And that's what's happening in the annual report that I call transitional report 21-22. Because it'll cover the section of January 2021 through June 30th, 22, which is 18 months. The first half from the annual report, from the yearly one, and the second part is the whole fiscal year. And so that's going to be in there. I will have there will be two audits, one for 21, one for 22. I volunteer to write that report because I'm one of the only two people that were here during the time that we had this report and the transition. So I'd like to write that. And I volunteer. I hope to get it out by December, maybe January. That'll get it out because of the holiday season. But so I'll take care of that. On the annual report 2023, now that's the one that we received this year. And that one has to be written up. And that's what you're gonna.
Yeah, I was volunteered for that report and have a open call for volunteers to join the cause. Certainly want to continue the rigor and traditions of what has been typical of this committee, but also try to bring some balance to the just overall accessibility of the report. And so for the most part, I'm talking about doing a cover page that kind of has all the critical information for the community members to understand how the bond program is performing upfront. And then I think, if possible if the committee will have it, shrink the size of the report. But, I think that's up for discussion. But that's the approach I was going to take.
If I make a suggestion, you had said that you would like a one-page report. But you might have to have it longer. But if you want to see what a one-page report would look like, you go back in our old annual reports. The committee used to have the contractor, I believe, make up a one-page report. And you have to have things like you have to have the compliance statement and that sort of thing, but it'll give you an idea of the essentials in it, if you want to look at that.
Okay. And the contractor you're referring to is?
I'll send you an email about it. So you can look.
That would have been SGI.
Oh, okay. The bond administrator. Is that right?
Bond program administrator,
Program.
construction manager, I should say.
Yeah.
The Seville Group. So you, problem with that is you get a little bit of a conflict of interest. The annual report would be reporting on the job that they were doing,
Yeah,
and they're writing it.
right.
Yeah. Brandon, why don't you give me a job evaluation about how you've been doing all this year, this year? I'm sure it's just fine.
Yeah, right.
It's just, you can't put much information in one page.
Yeah.
Yeah, you may be satisfying the letter of the law, because that's what the public wants. But at the same time, do they want a 150-page report? Probably not.
Well, a lot of our report too is attachments.
Mhm.
The regular reports may be 50 pages, something, but then you add all the attachments.
Yeah.
So can we add more infographics to our report so that be easier for public to read?
Yes,
That visual
infographic.
infographic.
What do you
that
mean
is.
by an infographic?
Well, I think, I think you're talking about, visual, instead of,
Word.
narrative.
Okay, but how is that?
Well, I mean, a pie chart speaks,
All right, what,
says
okay,
something as
yeah.
opposed to, you know,
what I was
line item.
worried about was, let's give them a bunch of links. So that if they've got internet access,
Oh,
they
no,
can go
okay.
then go out and do their own research and find all this information. That
No,
was
I-
my concern, especially after this weekend where most of us lost our internet access.
Yeah, like, you know, icons or pictures of the schools that are, you know, that are the size in relationship to how much money has been spent over the course of the year at those sites or something. Graphics that tell the story. And it's a way that we could get student engagement, involvement, and contributions to these things as an aspirational goal, because there's probably students that can do this a lot better than we can.
Well, also you can go to Colby, because when Melissa was showing us that report, like they had a pie chart and they said how much was out of D and how much was out of E, you know, so something like that might help too.
Is that, I spent over half a century in journalism, working magazines, websites, books all over the world for half a century. And I used to lecture at UC Berkeley Graduate School of Journalism. So that's just a general rule of thumb is you don't have a double page spread without an illustration on it. Yeah, you've got to have some kind of graphic, otherwise people are just gonna fall asleep, especially here in the United States. They actually learn more from the captions underneath the photographs than they do from the article. And so we've had our annual reports with a lot of photographs interspersed in there, when the bond program was more than just one school. Kind of hard when you just, and here's another view of Lake Elementary School. Let's go over a few feet of water and take another picture. But it helped break things up, and there were lots of charts, there was lots of, I can't say pie graphs. But I mean, it made it more interesting to read than just text.
Yeah.
But then we had a lot of pushback on that. I mean, within the CBOC.
Yeah, we are at our own, you know,
If we have the
Farrell,
bandwidth,
you know.
we can prepare two reports, one with only Word and one with infographics, pie charts.
Get a different group of people here than we had then. I
Yeah,
don't
I think we'll be-
I don't think you're gonna have any yelling or cursing like we did then.
Okay, so if there are anybody, if there's, is anybody that wants to contribute, reach out to Lorraine or I, to get involved, and I think we can commit to keeping the committee members updated on our progress.
Mhm.
Okay, so I just wanted to check, is it pretty quiet on the, online portion of this meeting, attendance? No hands, no.
Do not see any hands.
And Lynn, if you can hear us, just feel free to chime in at any point, just to let
Oh,
us
we
know.
did have a comment that came up that said from Lynn, saying the graphics is a good idea. It's clear and more engaging for interested community.
Awesome. And just, I want to, acknowledge that Tashiana's on the call. She is, has gone through the interview process to join our committee, Tashiana Johnson, and is been recommended. So I'm kind of skipping ahead here, just a note, because Tashiana has a lot of experience in social media and in community engagement through social media in a very effective way. So
Can you spell her first name, please?
yes. Tashina.
Tashina.
Yes.
Thank you.
So just want to throw that out there. I was gonna say a little bit more, item in, but, so, yeah, I think there's a lot of, experience to draw upon as we look to do these reports, but also to kind of look back at our, website and do a refresh.
We have our own social media account.
Yeah,
Maybe we can start one.
yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, item L, site visit committee. As was mentioned, we visited Lake, Elementary again, Friday, and it was awesome. This was the section, well, we heard about it in, Ellen's presentation, and, there was 3 members. And I wanted to, acknowledge your email you sent me. Cause did you not get the announcement that there was one? Okay, so there's a breakdown in communication, cause are you using your, district, address
I,
for this or your personal?
well, I use both emails.
Okay,
Is your district email still valid? Lorraine ran into that problem.
Okay,
but I wasn't getting bounce backs,
Okay.
Okay,
Yeah, I certainly was with Lorraine.
Yeah,
I'm still having problem with that, but it's working through.
I stopped sending it to you. Using that one. Yeah, we missed you. We took a great picture of the group of us.
oh,
There should have been a spot for you.
yeah, so the,
I had to feel it.
Add my head to the photo.
it was the district web, email address.
Okay,
So maybe that one's not.
I actually sent an email to you last Friday asking about the site visit with my personal email.
On Friday, right?
Yeah.
I didn't get that until
See if you
later.
can get into your district one, because you have to reapply every year.
Yeah,
That's the trouble I had.
yeah,
You did reapply?
I did,
Okay.
but
What is your,
once my district email became active again, I had never received any new emails on that.
Okay, well, that's.
sounds like a problem there.
I wonder if it was reactivated slightly differently or like a different.
So what is your district email address? I just want to send a test.
Ariel.cf,
Ariel.g,
Dot
Yeah,
XI.
okay, at WCC?
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah, I don't get a bounce back, so it's weird. Apologize for that. We did miss you. And there's 3 more opportunities. So I want to mention, November 8th, Hercules, 3 p.m. November 22nd, Shannon, 3 p.m. And then December 6th, back at Lake.
So
3 p.m.
for the Hercules, I believe we suggested 3:30 because the high schools get out later than our elementary schools do.
Okay. Thanks for that. Yeah.
Would you please send confirmation emails before?
Yes, I will make sure. I'm gonna put your personal email in
Yeah.
there.
Did you send an email to?
Yes,
I received nothing.
at WCC, and I'm not getting a bounce back either.
So it sounds like we have some technical things to work through on the email front, so make sure that we.
I'll give you a date.
Oh, and it looks like Lynn has raised her hand.
Yeah, Lynn?
Is there a chance, will we be seeing the sites again starting for the 2025 season prior to or during the completion of the projects? And if so, is there a chance to kind of play with some of the dates during the site visits so that they are not all on Thursdays and Fridays? Because I'm probably the only person on the committee that's needing a weekday. But Thursdays and Fridays are my regular work days. And so if we can have maybe 1 or 2 of the site visit days on a Tuesday or Wednesday, I don't know how feasible that is, if it is at all. But I would love to be able to participate in those site visits, but Thursdays and Fridays are just unfortunately don't work due to my work schedule.
Yeah, thank you for sharing, Lynn, and there's no problem at all. I think we just, we need to collect that information from all of our committee members, which we've tried in the past, and it's an ongoing process, to make sure that we can do at least once a month, and make sure that at least one member, hopefully two or more, can attend. But really, I think if there's dates that work for you, committing to that date, putting it down, we can share it, see if anybody else can commit to it, and then lock that in. So that goes for anybody that wants to propose a specific date that works for them. And then we try to get some critical mass, but even if we don't get critical mass, I think it's important to hold a site visit once a month, even if it's only one member going, because that member will just serve as the eyes and ears on site.
Are you going to have reports for these site visits?
Yes, eventually, I think it is an aspirational goal. And I would also like to bring the speaker back that you had intended to put before the committee. I think the time that she did show up, we didn't have quorum,
Right.
I think it was. So happy to agendize
Okay,
her
I'll
again.
take you,
Yeah.
because she had an extensive slide program
Yeah,
that she was going to show at that time.
you could email her and CC me or send me her email address and I
Okay.
can follow up.
All right. What, tell me when you would like to have her.
Let's just get the conversation going and see when she's
Okay.
available.
Fine.
Happy to do it, I mean, next month we may have an extended bylaw conversation, but potentially December.
Mhm.
In December, we have elections. Which is another plug randomly. We're coming up on election season, so get your ballots ready. Okay, so, yes, and I think, so reports and pictures and, kind of, yeah, we can try to commit to that, putting the pictures and some of the takeaways together, some of the questions that were asked, but then also incorporate best practices as we learn about other things to think about.
And keep track of who went to where. It could go on the website eventually. We'll have a spot for it on the website. And,
Yeah, we could even add a section to our attendance tracker, just kind of, like a line item that says, site visit, and date, and then
mhm.
if we want. All right, anything else on site visits? Yeah, I think the goal is to get everybody at a site visit who wants to experience a site visit, so that's the goal that should determine the schedule. Okay, item M, website committee. Lorraine, do you have any update? No pressure?
No.
Or just any questions or comments for the committee?
Well, nothing has been done on it because I was out sick for a couple of months and right now I'm the only one on the committee. And there's, quite a, writing the annual report. So I don't anticipate to start it up until January, maybe, to start looking into it. And, it's just a matter of having someone, look back and make sure, go through each section of the website. We can see if we want to keep it or not keep it, et cetera. And I believe Melissa said that, the, IT might be able to help us or with it once we decide what we want on it, and what we want changed.
So, yeah, one thing we could all do is go through the website and make some notes and comments from our own perspective about how we feel, where there's opportunity.
Right.
Don?
Since we were talking about the bylaws a few minutes ago, I took advantage of looking it up about some of the resolutions that we've passed. And it says we've passed about 4, maybe 5 resolutions over the past 20 some odd years. Well, I know I've written at least 3 times that many that have been passed. So I mean, I'm not volunteering to do this, but we need to go back through minutes at least over the past decade or so and find those resolutions that were brought before the body and passed, and you can put copies of them on our website.
Yeah.
And both,
Yeah.
by the way, most of those ones that I did find were from like 2004, 2005.
Yeah.
Not exactly up to date.
And so, I don't want to put, Tatiana on the spot, but Tatiana, if you're still in the meeting, listening, do you have any public comment on,
She's no longer present.
oh, shoot. I will say a little bit more about Tatiana on the next, item.
She could read your mind, said, no, you can ask me to do something. Log out, log out.
Yeah. It's like, I'm not even hired yet. Okay, so, well, thank you, Lorraine, for holding that down. Item N is CBOC recruitment update. So, we did interview Tatiana Johnson, and, frankly, she is a superstar, when it comes to, representing and engaging her community. And has had a lot of success, I think, through Facebook mostly, but maybe some other social media platforms. And I don't want to steal her thunder, so I'll just say that she's, based on some of her life experience, started to take action on some things that then had really impactful, had a big impact and created model for replication and scaling it. And so I just want her to be able to share that, her story herself. But really great approach and thinking around engagement. And we talked about her interest in terms of subcommittees. I think one that we landed on was the website committee as a starting point, just to build on what she's done thus far in the community already.
I'm sorry.
If she gets passed by the board, will you send the members, just the committee members, send her resume and her personal information so we can add it to our database, so we know about?
Yeah, absolutely. I can follow up with that.
Many years ago, one of my things I did was I created our first website. Okay, but it was through SGI. And then when the district decided to cancel their contract and they had board members that were threatening to put them all in jail, they took the website with them. Funny how that works, isn't it? Yeah, we thought it was ours, but no, it was theirs. It's okay, it wasn't that good.
Another.
Yeah,
question,
it's
yeah.
back about recruitment. I will be ending my 6-year, 3 terms, at the end of March of next year. So, I'm talking with the cocoa tax, because that's the only tax organization we have in the area. And we're gonna try to work to get a replacement starting after the holidays in January, or hopefully get a replacement for that slot to at least interview. for
Okay.
them.
So you're terming out 6 years, right?
Yes, yeah,
Okay.
and, yeah,
Okay, thank you for mentioning that. I wanted to, also mention there was, Mr. Andrew Butt, who also applied. We've been trying to schedule an interview with, Andrew, but I have not heard back from him, so that's another candidate. And then there was another candidate that, I'm not looking at the notes right now, but, I think withdrew themselves based on, just the issue around commitment and not being able to commit to attend meetings.
That's kind of a tough one.
So we, So there has been a surge in applications though. So, that's, relative surge. Yes,
I have a question for Melissa. Are you still there, Melissa?
I'm here.
Okay, good. When Rochelle gave, she's the head of, community relations. When she gave her report on the, recruiting, she had a thing, I'm talking about the business, associate or whatever, organization member. She mentioned that in the community, they had, I think she said 150 business connections. Now, was the purpose of her report just to tell us what is available, or was she going to help contact these organizations to see if we can get a business manager? Or a, business representative?
So I don't want to misspeak, and so I do believe that she was identifying the resource. But I do think that one of the things that we can do is we can reach out to her to get some clarity.
Maybe get some emails or something that if some, if the committee wants to write to them, the application committee, whatever.
Yeah, absolutely. So I can follow up with her to get some additional details. And when we're preparing for a meeting, if we ever want to invite other district members to join us to lend their expertise to the discussion and to be available, just let us know and we'll extend the invitation.
Don. Did you want to say something first, or,
I have a comment from Lynn.
okay, let's
Take
go.
that first.
Lorraine, I can also assist with the CBOC website. I have extensive experience. Please send me an email outside the meeting and let me know what you're looking to do.
Sounds great. Thank you, Lynn.
Thanks, Lynn.
And just for clarity, like, we're not expecting anybody to build a website necessarily. We are going through a new website process with communications, and I think that'd be a good component, as Melissa just offered up, communications, coming to the meeting, to be able to check in exactly how that process would work. I know they're, kind of looking for structures more than individual people trying to build. So although I don't have the details for that either, so, that will be another good question for
Well, we could
communication.
probably get the person who designed your website to help us, just on some ideas, the district website.
Yeah, I don't know if, there's really, I think Ma's kind of, could you get the door? Right, that'll be kind of the discussion of the communications, like what the process is for us getting you from wherever you are today into the
Right.
new district website.
Great.
All right, cool. Sounds like we have some, support there.
Kennedy.
Oh, yes, Don. Sorry.
Or we punish for letting somebody step in front of me. I've been battling with the board for several years now about what defines a business organization. Because when I applied, the fact that I own 3 businesses said it doesn't qualify. The fact that I've been a member of the building trades organization, which is a business advocacy group, just like the Chamber of Commerce is, doesn't count. They wanted to go with like the Chambers of Commerce, except we don't have a Chamber of Commerce for West Contra Costa County. We've got Pinole Hercules Chamber of Commerce, we've got El Cerrito Chamber of Commerce, we've got Richmond Chamber of Commerce. But the problem with all those is, even in Richmond, there are only 85 businesses that are members of the Richmond Chamber of Commerce because it's so damn expensive to be a part of it. If you're a small business, there are hardly any. They're missing thousands of small businesses because it's too expensive. Do I put food in front of my kids, or do I pay the fee to belong to the Chamber of Commerce? So it's a tough one. They need to define what actually is a business organization. And they're just not doing it. I brought it up at the joint meeting again this year. Last year I brought it up again. And they're just not doing anything. It's something that the board has to do. If the board is the one that's saying, no, we're not gonna accept your business affiliations, you have to say, tell us what it is. And do it in a public way, so that the public can weigh in on that. Because obviously I've got some very strong feelings about that. I don't like the fact that, I own 3 businesses, but my businesses are so small. They're worldwide businesses. I actually don't do any business in Richmond. So why would I join the Chamber of Commerce? Are they gonna promote my work in Europe and in Asia? I don't think they've got that kind of stroke. So why am I gonna pay them, minimum of $500 a year to be a part of that? The board needs to step up, because they're not doing their job as far as this goes. Because we're losing out on somebody that filled a mandated spot of business representative because of the lack of direction from the board.
Okay, I think, did we not get some clarity from Lewis, earlier this year on this definition? I mean, not to say that it answered the question, but I think this was posed, I think he took it back and came back with some statement around.
Yes, he did, and with all due respect for my good friend Lewis, he doesn't get to make that choice. It's up to the board. And they need to address it, again, in a public way. Not in executive session or not in front of a bunch of beers in front of the pub. Okay, anyway.
Yeah, so maybe, I mean, that's something that, maybe would benefit from some legwork of making a spreadsheet with 2 columns that says, here are business representatives that we think qualify, we as the committee, and what I'm thinking the distinction is like a board member level representative of a business association, not just a member of association, but maybe.
Wow, I
I
mean,
don't
sorry,
know. I'm just thinking.
Yeah.
I'm just thinking out loud.
my feeling has always been to try to find a way to bring people in to our organization instead of trying to find ways to push people out.
Yeah.
And the more restrictive we are on this, we are pushing people away. So if they're not
Yeah,
even
and I
applying.
agree with you. I'm just saying,
Yeah.
we need to put it down. We need to put it down on paper so that we can get a response from the board, maybe.
So
To say,
the
where do
law
you draw
does
the line?
not give any definitions in the law itself. What is a business organization? So that makes a problem.
So we got the same issue there. Tell me, which senior organization do we have in West Contra Costa County that represents all of us? There aren't any. Okay, I pay my $15 a year to ARP. Is that a legitimate senior organization? There isn't any. But we still have a senior representative, don't we? I think I might be it.
Right, yeah. Well, could it be the senior citizens, groups in the different towns? Could they qualify?
There's no
There's no
definition.
definition.
That's
Yeah.
my point.
I think, didn't you ask for definitions of those during the meeting?
Numerous times.
Yeah. I remember that.
It's
So we
as I
need
say, broken record.
clarification. And it might be going to the California Association of Bond Oversight Committees and ask them if they have any opinion of what would be it, because they had so many members that were on CBOCs.
Yeah,
They might have some suggestions.
Can we,
okay, all right, well, let's, go
can we
ahead.
define that, in our bylaws? Or
No,
No.
that's not up to
That's
us on that.
illegal.
That's a board thing.
Well, DVD. Okay, item O, new business, call for agenda items, request for information. Attendance updates, if you're gonna be absent, all is on the table. So I'll just say that we have, a few items that have come up for future agendas, the Pledge of Allegiance and Labor and Land Acknowledgement, the Richmond and Kennedy financial detail that Melissa talked about, as well as Highland Elementary School detail, and then bylaws, Any other agenda items or request for information? Should we do a formal request for information for the definition potentially? Don?
I'm not saying do that,
Okay.
but at the board meeting the other night, they had an agenda item that was pulled. I've requested numerous times to ask why it was pulled, but you had the education specs for Kennedy High School and Richmond High School, 172-page document. I think this is kind of thing that Bond Oversight Committee should be aware of, at least. I sent copies to you guys all.
Yeah.
Uh,
Thank you.
But I mean, that's an awful lot of information, and it was small print on there. I was disappointed that we were first hearing about it at a board meeting. Okay, which it very well could have been passed. Okay, and then we'd find out about it without any input from the Bond Oversight Committee. But at the very least, I would like to see it presented to us, so it goes on the record, and if anybody has any questions or comments or discussion on it, we can do it.
The
So, yeah.
education specs, did you say?
Yes, essentially, what do we need to put in our school before we build it? Essentially, the documents.
Yeah, I'll have to look.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah, I didn't,
There were three items.
So just so everybody understands what it is, because I don't think everybody's got the opportunity to get into it, what is these documents, what do these documents describe? Or maybe, Alvin, just briefly,
Yeah,
high level.
Make you feel welcome here.
Thank you. So an educational specification, or what most people refer to it in short is EdSpec, is really a document that describes the physical space and its connection to the educational program. So it gives you, and I like, in simplistic terms, I like to refer to it as the recipe for the building. So it really gives you all the ingredients that create a building, and some direction about how to put it together. So it lists the square footages of space, and the quantities of each type of space, and a general description about what that space is used for, if it needs any special interior finishes, as far as like the walls, the ceilings, the floors, if it needs any special utilities, plumbing, HVAC, those kind of things. Those are what's described within an education specification.
Thank you. So those are created by consultants for the district, or those in alignment with?
So we have a district-wide educational
ESA
specification
standards.
for high school, middle school, and elementary. So the original documents were based upon the high school educational specification. They're a district-wide document. They're on the facilities website. Those were adjusted utilizing a variety of sources that included an evaluation of some of our historic rebuilds, as well as input during the scoping part of the prioritization process to get us to a modernization building. And also the educational program for Kennedy and Richmond, which they have different educational programs, mostly revolving around our career technical education. That's where the biggest difference is between the two documents.
Can you share with me at least, why was it pulled off the agenda?
I was given the same information that you were, that the board would like additional information, and I have not received what those specific
Okay.
questions are.
Thank you.
So, I don't have the answer for
All right,
that.
well, that's more than I got when I asked the board. And
And
Ryan,
what I would share is that we're committed to sharing an update with the CBOC about when those items will return back to the board.
I like that.
Thank you.
I sent it out to you Wednesday night, the 23rd.
okay, good, okay.
Okay. I've just double checked it. It didn't bounce back. I sent it to your personal email.
Oh, I get so many emails, that can lose it.
Thank you.
So yeah, looking at this looks like we'd be very interested in this. Just curious, who authors this spec?
The facilities department,
I'm sorry.
Facilities
the
Department?
facilities department, in collaboration with our architects and design manager.
Okay. So once the architect of a project's identified. Okay. Cool. Any other comments?
On what?
This item, which is new business?
Okay.
Request for information, does anybody know that they're gonna be absent, next month or December from the meeting?
Yes, I have cataract surgery on the 18th, so I won't be here in
18th of November?
November.
Okay.
So you won't be able to go to the board meeting and see the new board members sworn in?
I'll watch it on TV.
Yes,
November 18th.
right? Let's see.
No,
November 18th is our next scheduled meeting.
oh, is that possible to be other days?
It's possible. I think we did change a date, in May, and that date, yeah, but
It was
it
just you?
didn't pan out. We didn't have quorum. So I would caution, we just need to make sure that if we do change the date, that everybody is in agreement. Since, for the most part, we have our dates published at the beginning of the year. And so I think people plan around those. Let's see, and then our December. Looking at, so December would be the 9th, so if we pushed it out another week to the 25th, that's Thanksgiving week,
School closed.
Yeah.
so
District's closed.
that's not gonna work. The 11th is Veterans Day, and then I think it's a slippery slope to schedule it for a different day than Monday, probably, I would assume.
Well, mine is.
You're what?
I mean, I'm not seeing any blank spots on my calendar. Even the Saturdays and
Yeah.
Sundays.
Yeah.
You
No, I
know,
think Monday's a day where there's not. It's open for most people, it seems like. I can put out a poll. If we, see if we get critical mass.
I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Oh, never mind.
Anything else for new business? Okay. Item P, old business.
Yes.
Do you have anything?
Well, the FAI, we haven't heard anything on the FAI. This might be a suggestion for the future. Since 2021. Now, we got a general update, but I mean, are these contractors still working on it? I'm 1.5, has that been, anything done with it? 2.0, has anything been done with it? That,
Okay. we can,
status update on it.
can add
Last
that.
time it was more like a general history of it.
I gotta add something on that.
Right.
Out of the 112 items on that FAI, 7 of them were so confidential, attorney-client privilege, that they could not share with us what they were. Okay? Well, the problem they ran into is that nobody is left in the district, there's nobody left in the law firm that remembers what they were. How do you find out the status of these things when nobody has any idea what they are? The accountants don't know. I said, Nixon Peabody doesn't know. They admit this. No, we don't have the writing records of those things anymore. All the personnel that were working on it a decade ago, is just gone. There's no school board members left, no superintendents left. Yeah, I just hope it wasn't something too serious.
Okay, any other old business? Okay. Okay, item Q, for the good of the order. Don,
I've got an item on here. I brought this up to our chair a while back. it's been at least 3 or 4 years since we've had any reports to the board and the public at our school board meetings. There's an item on there called standing reports. Well, board chair, Mr. Phillips got rid of all the standing reports. Okay, there was like 26 different groups that were invited, 5 minutes each. Thing is, usually there was only 2 groups, maybe 3 that would show up. UTR, me for the CBOC, and an African-American group. All right, but then they've reinstituted those things. But the public needs to know what's going on with the CBOC. The board needs to know what's going on with the CBOC. Now, most of our people on the CBOC don't even attend the meetings, let alone giving a report. Now, they try to tell us, well, you can always give a report under public comment. Well, I've got 2 minutes to give public comment, at that time, speaking on about 6 or 8 different items. Give me about 17 seconds per item on there. You can't say anything in 2 minutes. So that 5 minutes was a big thing. They also said, well, you can do it at the beginning of the meeting, before they go into executive session when there's absolutely nobody in the room. So it kind of sounds like we don't really want to hear from you on that. And there's nothing in there that specifies who from the CBOC or the 7-Eleven committee can give reports. When I tried to give reports earlier this year, I was shut down by the board president. They can't find the time for us. Anyway, I talked with our chair about that, and I said, I'd be more than happy since I've been at the meetings anyway, giving a report. But the response back I got was, he's okay with that, but the committee would have to decide what I'm gonna say. I can't do that. I can't work like that. But first off, I mean, you're talking maybe 6 weeks between them, because we're only meeting once a month, and depends upon the date that that standing report shows up. You know, getting up there and talking about something that just happened 6 weeks ago doesn't really cut it. But it's an opportunity to be able to speak about what we're doing and the problems that we're running into. Yeah, the fact that we still don't have legally required people on the CBOC. The public needs to be made aware of it. You need to keep refreshing it in the minds of the board members. We've got problems here. But I'd still be more than happy to give the reports, but not if I have to come before the board and get permission for every word that I'm going to say. I can't work like that. But it's something that if somebody else wants to do that, we need to be able to give the reports, because we are representatives of the public. That's what we're here for. But it doesn't do any good. We can't represent the public if the public doesn't even know the committee exists, doesn't know that each of us exists, and has absolutely zero way of getting a hold of us.
So, yeah, thank you, Don. Let's agendize this to discuss the level of comfort everyone has in terms of how we send representatives of the committee to address the board. So we do get, I think it's every other month, at least we get a 5-minute opportunity to address the board towards the beginning of the meeting, right? So maybe it's not, yes.
I have a comment from
Okay, one second. So
President
maybe it's not, that you have to get every word, approved by this committee, but it's, maybe there's some discussion, in preparation for the next month's, opportunity to speak at the board meeting. Yes, President Smith-Folds.
individuals can have extended public comment that is 5 minutes long. This is offered to any member of the public. All you have to do is request the time to speak. I brought back standing reports so the board could hear from all PACs and committees.
I didn't hear a word you said.
So you can get extended public speaking time to 5 minutes. You have to request it as a member of the public. And President Smith-Folds brought back an opportunity for PACs and committees to be able to provide reports to the board. I think it's every other month or every other board meeting, maybe it is. So maybe it is once a month, yeah. So, back to Don, your point, I think, providing that report to the board would be more of a reflection of what we have agendized and have discussed. As opposed to, and then like providing your own public comment could be more colorful than what we are limited to in terms of what we've discussed at our agendized at our meetings. It's just like a way to distinguish.
I mean, in the few times that I've commented about the CBOC between the board and other organizations, I make it crystal clear. I have zero authorization to speak for the CBOC. I'm a member of the public that happens to sit on the CBOC. I said, and I'm a member of the public that can respond about the CBOC when I wasn't even a member of the CBOC before I got back on. That's what people were asking me, because they look at me because they know I've been around forever and I've got information that they can have. When I was chair and I gave the CBOC reports, I said, they were always placed at the actual report was placed in our agenda packets. Verbatim, was the text on there. So it was not, it was shared with the CBOC that didn't bother to show up at the meetings to listen. But I know a lot of people were listening to what I had to say, because before I got sat back down, I'd have 4 or 5 texts or voicemails. Yeah, people were pleased, learning a little bit more about what was going on with their tax dollars. Just saying.
Okay, any other comments on for the good of the order? Okay, item R, our next scheduled meeting is November 18th, 6:15. It's the third Monday of the month because of the holiday. I will send out a poll, if we get a quorum to respond to committing to a different day, then we will entertain moving the date. Your question, Josh?
I also have another question.
Sure.
And how about the last time, the virtual volunteer interview? And then there's a new number?
Yeah, we did. So you were on the call, right? For Tashiana, and we have not, we had one interview that was, that the candidate withdrew, and then another where we're still trying to schedule.
Oh, so they finalized together.
When you say finalize, the one that you participated in, we're moving them to the, to be appointed to the board, for the board to make the decision to appoint.
Oh,
Was that your question?
yes, and another one is pending to schedule.
Pending the schedule, yeah.
Oh. Yeah, look forward to the next participation. It's really good to know.
Okay, thank you. Okay, meeting adjourned, 8:30.
Hold on. Sorry. I'm looking at item D, approving the minutes.
Oh, did we skip?
Yeah, I think we
Oh,
did.
okay,
And
let's,
that's when we got talking about the minutes.
oh,
Well, that was under approval of the agenda,
Yeah.
but
that's
not the
true,
actual
that's
minutes. And
true.
I'm not recommending that we go over them right now, because we need to get home.
Yeah.
I got dinner.
Well, we'll put it on next month.
they
Yeah.
escaped us again.
Yeah, but I want to make sure somebody didn't think that, well, because we approved the agenda, that it blanketly approved on these agendas.
Okay,
We're back a long ways here.
we'll get
Yeah.
eight, April minutes on there, and then,
I had one for August that I sent you too. They keep going here.
we'll get them all on here. Let's do it. Annual minutes review,
Ooh,
approval. Okay,
I will try to give you today's meeting.
okay, great, thank you. Okay, any other final things from okay, meeting officially adjourned, 8:31.